Hi, welcome back to the course on presentation skills, and this is specifically from the foundation course and as well as, give me one moment here. So let's look at the slide that we were talking about, and then we'll move on to understand the effect of speaking and the effect of communication as well. Okay. So in the previous slides, we were talking much about the preparation, the planning stage and the delivery stage of an effective presentation. So let's look on the board and understand why it is important that I go through these stages sequentially, and why do I have to really plan well, prepare and then execute the presentation effectively. So let's move on to understand this. So the first one is the planning stage for effective presentation, and then we go by preparation, then we go by the preparation, then we move on to execute it, that is the delivery of presentation. Okay, so planning, preparation and delivery are the three sequential steps to make your presentation effective, and all you have to do is keep in mind that why planning as a stage has to be prepared well, and then how do we go about going ahead and preparing a particular stage. Just look at the slide, and yeah, just look at the slide. Okay, so looking at this slide very clearly, why visuals? So visuals are powerful tools because they increase understanding, save time, enhance the attention, help control nervousness. So these are the important pointers while you're preparing the presentation, while you're creating the slides to make your presentation effective. So in the previous session, we did discuss about planning. We were talking about preparation, and we were also at the stage of execution as to how to deliver a effective presentation. Moving to understand what makes it clear, that is size implies the importance. So let's look at this very reasoning as to how a slide can be made perfect, as to how a slide can be made important. This is how it makes it clear. So size, as to create the effective presentation, all you have to do is follow the rule book of the effectiveness and making it more clearer. So keep it simple. This is one rule that we have extensively spoken in the previous slide, previous tutorial too. That is, keep it short and simple. This is one of the techniques to make your presentation effective, and the technique has to be quite simpler. That is, you have to follow the rule book of being concise. You are clearer in your speech to make your presentation effective. Keep it short and simple is one of the acronym which is being used to make your presentations effective, and also to make your conversation being conveyed to the group of audience, to the group of participants who are listening, to get the knowledge transfer from you. So keeping it, the artwork may distract your audience. So let's look at the slide just to understand and be ready with the concept of how you can make this particular complex information be readily available to the listener, and how would you speak, how would you plan to speak with this particular concept that is in case is being given to you. So, I will give you a moment's time, look at it and start relating, start writing your own notes with regard to keeping it simple, keeping it short and making it available to the listener. So, now the second slide as well gives you the same information, make it big. How to estimate, look at from the 2 meters away. So, let us look at this explanation now. So, each time when you are creating slides and you are selecting that specific picture that can be available or that is related to the topic, all you have to do is keep yourself at a certain distance level to understand the visibility, to understand if there are any challenges that can be encountered by the listener, by the audience to relate to the picture and get the message what you are trying to convey. So, this is something we have to keep in mind. So, tips for effectiveness, that is tips and techniques for effective presentation: maintain good eye contact, vary your speaking volume, use pauses, do not read your presentation, don't stand between the audience and slide. I want you all to look up to the board right now so that I can talk about something. So, each time an opportunity is being given to present a conversation, you have to be very clear about the seating arrangement, your standing position and how would you select a place in a public platform to deliver something which is supposed to be conveyed. So, keep in mind you are not supposed to show your back. Well, in instances I did show the back because I had a constraint, I had certain limitations out here, but the rule clearly says that never show back to your audience. Use your proper pause management and that has to be followed as per the English language. Do not read your presentation, just pick up words or maybe you would like to elaborate, you can do so, but highly not recommended is reading word by word. So, do not stand between the audience, that is blocking certain way, blocking some part of information which could be a hindrance for the audience to get it. So, maintain a good eye contact, that is one of the most important feedback that every speaker might end up getting, but there are a lot of public speakers, presenters who have made this all possible by lot of rehearsals, lot of practice and hence they have mastered this entire technique of getting the presentation more effective. Tips on visual aids, are the visual aids easy to read and easy to understand? That is something you have to really make sure. So, the picture that you are selecting and that picture which is being placed on your slide has to be appropriately selected, has to be relevant to the subject that you want to convey, and can this be easily seen from all the areas of the room. Now, this is something we were talking about in terms of visibility of the content. So, the content font, the font size, the font style and the color of the font plays a very important role, and these are very technical details in while making the presentation. So, keep in mind that we all follow this. So, some final words is communication is the key. Text to support the communication, pictures to simplify complex concepts, visuals to support, not to distract. So, let us get this understanding one by one. Like we were talking about, communication is the key, that is the key to share the information. Text which is supposed to be selected and placed in the PowerPoint has to be appropriately selected with due vigilance to it, because every word that you pick up and you display, you are sharing that as part of the information in the presentation. Pictures to simplify complex concepts is something you have to keep in mind. Visuals to support and not to distract is you have to be conscious about. Moving further, signs to detect the audience is listening or not. Now, this is a concrete feedback that you can get whether your presentation is going smooth and your presentation is being well received and accepted. So, start to look down, that is understand if everybody is able to give eye contact to you if you are the presenter, and these can also be distractors. So, the moment you look down, the moment you touch or rub face, hand or your hair, this is also one of the distractors. Yawning, fidgeting, that is playing with a marker or a duster, having that heavy deep breathing, whisper, tapping your feet, all are distractions to the listener, because your important message can be faded away, and these pointers will come out heavily as distractors. So keep that in mind, that you have to avoid these things religiously. So make sure you are finished speaking before your audience has finished listening. Keep this thing in mind. And how do we do that? By simply asking a question and getting the response from the people. So questions we have already discussed, information such as things which can go ahead and you can make yourself very effective. Let's look at the board right now and understand why it is important to go through this sequence particularly, that is planning, preparation and the delivery stage. So it's important that I learn the sequence appropriately and I go by this sequence on a complete point. So making the effective presentation. So what is presentation? Now that we have been dealing a lot about how to present, what not to present, and how to really make it effective. So basically it is a process of presenting the content of a topic to an audience consisting of more or one person. So the content that you decided of, and you want to give that as an information transfer, you want to share that as an update, you want to give it as a knowledge transfer, you want to educate somebody, and then we are using the means through presentation. It does utilizes certain visual aid, and it is important that I select that right, appropriate and relevant visual aid. So that is to keep in mind. It is generally a PowerPoint file containing all the slides for a given speech. So we are using the PowerPoint technology in order to present, showcase your idea through visual aid. So there are 4 basic steps basically in making effective presentations, and let's look these steps very closely and understand why it is important to understand these steps quite close before we move towards mastering effective presentation. So the first one is strategy, and then the second point to remember is the structure of the presentation, whether you are doing it in a formal context or informal context. Then we have presentation style, that is the style of presentation, how you want to go about it. And then we have the fourth important thing, which is handling the questions. Okay. So looking at the first one is the strategy, that is formulate a strategy for the specific audience, that is catering, customizing your content to that specific set of people in order to make it effective, in order to make the listeners feel easy about the communication that they are receiving, about the update that they are receiving. Now this is the most important stage, like your planning, and then was preparation with the execution part. So over here it is very important that again I brainstorm the ideas. It is one of the second means to understand and make your presentation effective. Even if you would like to follow the 3 stages that we have discussed earlier, which is planning, preparation and delivery, you are still good to go. Now this is giving you a little more detailing about why a strategy or customization is important. The structure is all about how you develop a flexible and flowing structure. So how smooth is your presentation going? Are you being hesitant? Is the flow of information going through in an interactive or a dialogue form, or is it just being stagnated where the person is not able to receive and understand the information? Well, the third stage is very simple, the presentation style, how you present as important as what you present. That is, your presentation is equally important, and how you are presenting it as well plays a very important role too. Handling questions, that is the last or the end stage of your presentation, and equally important because that's how you can actually leave the impression about yourself. maybe in between the presentation did not go well, but however you can still create that impact through a complete energetic conclusion of your point. So, confident and informed responses to questions and challenges are equally there in order to understand and get it right. So, the next one is in going in detail about these stages. So, the first stage is nothing but formulating a strategy. So, it is critical to know the purpose of communication. So, why are you communicating? The why question can help you get all the responses and make your presentation quite effective. Now, this why has to be narrowed down to a level where it gives you that precise specific response. Why are you making the presentation and how are you going to accomplish your goal and agenda? Knowing the audience and expectations of the audience is very important to decide what to present and how to present. Moving ahead, tailor your presentation to the audience with respect to their needs, their desires, their knowledge level and the attitude towards the topic. Now, tailor making is equally important. Now that you have selected a topic, and how would you tailor make and customize it is knowing the level of audience and working towards it. Be concrete, specific, practical and relevant. The relevance of the topic to what you are trying to convey has to be accurate. I mean, there cannot be miss on it. If there is a miss, then there is a communication failure that can happen. Be clear about your objective, that is what you are trying to accomplish while you are presenting and delivering this presentation. So, are you there to motivate? Are you there to inform? Or are you there to persuade somebody? So, are you there to teach? So, get it right. So, are you there to motivate? Are you informing? Are you educating? Or are you just teaching somebody? These are the 4 reasons why a presentation is being given or conducted. So, let us look at it. Okay. So, the first point to remember why we give presentation. So, the why form is either we motivate or either we are informing, we are educating or enlightening people, or we are teaching somebody. Now, all have different style and all these different forms of presentation needs a complete different preparation. So, for motivation you can maybe start off with certain statistical figure, certain factual information with a great motivation thought as start of your presentation, and then in order to inform, that is you are just giving the update to the audience. So, it is very important that you are accurate, you are precise and you are concise while you are giving out the information. Educate, that is how do we go and give that specific information where audience is unaware of, audience was never been told, and audience need this important information to maybe understand the, to get the awareness, and through this awareness they can either work or pass on the same thing to the others. So, it is very critical out here. Teaching, specific topic, because again in teaching you are transferring the knowledge to the person. So, it is very important that you transfer the right knowledge. It is very important that you give out the right and accurate information. So, this is to keep in mind. Once again, you either motivate, so different presentations, you motivate, you inform, you educate and you teach through presentations. Second step to remember is develop a flexible and flow with your structure. So, once you know what you want to say and you need to organize all the information in structured manner. Now, this totally depends on how you believe a structure should be and how you have been practicing the structure as such. Let us look at the slides to better understand this. Now, these are the pointers to keep in mind, that once we have the planning, a strategy completely to achieve and accomplish, these are the pointers, how do we organize our thoughts and how do we get the information to the audience. Also we have covered and we understood that in the stage 1, that is in the strategy stage, I have to really be good enough to tailor make my content, tailor make my the level of information that I am passing. So this is to keep in mind. So do not assume information will speak for itself. You have to really break it down. You have to chunk it down to a level where people get the information in one go. So there's no point of using a lot of complex vocabulary, a lot of complex information when you can actually simplify the entire communication with the presence of that simpler words and making your grammar presence felt and following the rules of pronunciation. So this is to keep and make your presentation effective. The audience might interpret the information in different ways based on your organization and presentation. Like there's always a fact we all have to abide by. Though people might carry similar degrees, people might have studied in the same college, they might also have the same work experience, but what makes the difference is every human has different level of thinking and perception. So just because your friend and you have studied in the same college with same subject under same supervision of a tutor or a faculty doesn't mean that the person is going to get the information, or maybe you are also in a situation where you might have not got the information, but your friend has got it. So you have to keep in mind the level of thinking and level of perception differs in every human being, and that's something been proven by the psychology. Okay, moving on, next slide is in continuation to what we just spoke, that is developing a flexible and flowing structure. Why should I pay attention to you when I can think about more interesting things? Well, this can be one question that can come up from the audience, from the participants. Now that I am listening, why should I care about this issue? Okay, these are the common questions where people might have in their mind, and yes, it's been proven that these are the running questions that people who are seated in audience as listeners would have somewhere back in the mind. I agree with the significance of the topic, but how are you justifying your ideas? That is to stay in power to make your presentation effective. So now that I'm convinced, what do you want from me? So you understand, you are convincing somebody, you're persuading somebody, and again there's a question that can come up from the audience that now that I'm convinced, now that I have the persuasion that you have got, what do you want as as a listener? What do you want as a speaker from me? So keep questioning this each time when you're preparing. So the other thing to keep in mind is begin by placing a topic in the context. You might want to provide an outline or a roadmap, that is a structure towards your presentation. Provide the intended expected benefits or organization of the presentation and with the specific ground rules. Organize the body of presentation logically, make it easy to follow. That is, go from a simple to the complex situation. When appropriate, plan ways to encourage audience participation again. Maintain credibility, discuss the pros and cons, conclude on a high note. Include an overall summary and proposed actions and the other options. So we have already discussed this, there have to be a effective summary in order to make your presentation felt by the listeners, felt by the set of people in the audience. But however, something to keep in mind is, how would you make it more credible? Conclusion can be effective, but how are you making certain points that you want to convey more credible? That can only happen through a lot of homework, a lot of research work. So that has been recommended that go high in terms of your research, in terms of your reading, and get your information up. So incorporate a lot of visual aids effectively and certain graphs and pictures, etc. Prepare for specification, that is, practice your presentations and rehearse it every time before you present it in the final audience. Think about what might have happened and prepare what if the overhead bulb blows out, and what if the audience is more prepared than you expected? What if there is an unexpected question, if a disruption is particularly obtrusive? You might relieve the tension with a joke or humorous comment. So understand, we all would be one time in this awkward situation, maybe as as a co-passenger, as a person who's traveling, and a stranger walks up to you and asks you a question where you're awkwardly silent and you do not know what to give out. As a public speaker, as a presenter, you might again undergo the similar experience. So there are a lot of various means to convey that you do not know by being so direct that you do not know. Maybe you can convey through a humor, through a laughter, through asking more facts about the question which is being asked, and more detailing of why the question is being asked. So get it there in terms of just structuring and making your presence felt. So moving on, presentation style, that is step 3 to understand. Presentation style and personal confidence are as important as the actual content of the presentation itself. So you might have the best content, you might have best pronunciation as well, but if the style is not effective, then you'll not make a difference by being personal, adding the touch, and your confidence is not showcased. So your confidence skills plays a very important role as well while we are making the presentation feel better by the listeners. Effective presenters recognize that communication is both intellectual and emotional. Now these are the two words to keep in mind, that not always facts can sail through, not always emotions can sail through, but intellectual part of piece of information and emotional piece of information should go hand in hand. That is, facts with emotions are most accepted, and you get the buying from the audience too. Organizing your ideas is one important task, and it is a heavy task for a lot of us, and it's very difficult to organize that right way of communicating what you want to be communicating at. The other most important task is to gain and maintain the attention of audience. The attention span of a human being, guys, always remember, it is very limited, it's very less. How you make the difference is only through your visual aid, only through what you're trying to communicate, and how you make your presentation, your own presentation be felt by the audience. Your eye contact, your body language, your postures, your gestures, it has to be like effective. So keep that thing as most important. So techniques to gain and maintain attention, that is to convey controlled enthusiasm for your subject. The audience will forgive a lot if the speaker is enthusiastic. So you might not be able to answer all the questions which has been asked, but certainly audience can be more kind enough to really forgive you, and just understand the information what you have given. So be kind enough to your own self that you have to be enthusiastic to make your presence felt. Pay attention to the posture and tone. Tone is nothing but your expression, how I express and what I express, and then your audience will mirror your attitude. So this is something we have to all remember, that it is somewhere not really been part of effective communicator style if you do not have that right attitude at the right time. Also, keep in mind how you radiate confidence without preaching. So you cannot be teacherish, yet you need to have that element of being educative, and you need to radiate confidence through your speech and communication. Don't confuse enthusiasm with loudness. Try to convey a range of emotions, from concern, anticipation, excitement, and being little distressful. So when you are distressful, you have to keep in mind that you're just causing anxiety, and the entire presentation work that you have dealt and worked with might go for a toll, and you might not create that effectiveness. So keeping in mind to candidly discuss the pros and cons, explain advantages first and then risk and challenges. So every time you're communicating, you're talking about a presentation style and conveying the information through risk and challenges, there's a way to again communicate. So gaining audience interest, there are a lot of means again, just look at this slide. The first one talks about provide variety and relief if possible. And then alternate moving and standing still, speaking, listening, doing and thinking. Use physical space and body movement to enhance your message. So in order to make your message more effective, start using the space, start walking around, make your presence felt, make people believe that you're here to present and you're here to help them get the information. The other thing to keep in mind, most important, is try to add stories, anecdotes, testimonials, analogies and demonstrations. So these things can make it more effective. Adding stories, anecdotes, the right anecdotes, testimonials, analogies and demonstration. These are the things that you have to keep in mind in order to make it effective. So let me make a note of you for these words, because that can help you really make your presentation effective. So the first thing to keep in mind is start sharing stories, lot of real time stories. Anecdotes are nothing but short one liners to convey a message or meaning. And then to talk about is your stories, your anecdotes, things like testimonials, analogies, and what else, any other facts or demonstration. Now this is something practically you can do and show something to the audience so that they can get the information. Once again, stories, anecdotes, testimonials, analogies and demonstration to make your presence felt as a speaker and to be an effective presenter. Use humor appropriately, make it in good taste. Now this is something you have to be careful. Avoid humor on religion, gender, politics and on somebody's health issue. So avoid these, and otherwise you can seriously try it out your own hand on humor. Try to position yourself to enhance rapport with the audience, that is your positioning, your distance from the audience can also make a lot of difference. Eye contact is your primary tool for establishing audience involvement. Look at your audience in random rotating order. Use gestures naturally. Do what is natural to you. Some gestures are wrong, and that is cultural again. Keeping in mind jingling change in a pocket, toying with notes, shifting from one foot to the other, or any repeated gesture. So anything that I overdo is unaccepted in the public speaking world, that is in the presentation world, and this can stop you towards making your presentation effective. Once audience interest is gained, you must help them to retain it. Let's look at the slide. There are a lot of pointers out here in this slide. Keeping in mind, members of the audience may drift in and out without paying attention at all, is what the second point says. You need to help the audience refocus periodically. Reiteration and conclusions has to be given. So you basically have to repeat the topic. You basically have to give out examples each time you are conveying a concept or a technical term or a specific word that has to be conveyed. And you can also conclude, and through example you can actually conclude that specific learning and topic. So this is what the slide talks about under presentation style. So the last step 4 is we are moving towards now. This is handling objection question. every presentation, be it you're presenting a topic in the interview discussion, you will be going through the stage that is handling that specific question after giving a presentation, after giving a speech, after giving a talk. So ask friendly questions, maybe they might be little tough questions to go by, and avoid giving out any complex responses. Make the interchange of communication mutual, respectful, and more trustworthy. That has to be attempted as a presenter and as a speaker for all of us. Moving ahead, don't let your thoughts wander and you give out multiple responses. Looking at the slide right now, there are a lot of pointers here. So I'll just discuss a couple of important ones. So when challenged, be candid and firm, but avoid over responding. That is something I have to keep in mind. Maintain control of the session. Be firm and assertive without being aggressive or defensive. Don't let interruptions disrupt your composure. Avoid circumstances that is required for an apology. Now, let's not get to the stage where we end up asking for an apology. Well, apology is quite simpler when we ask it, but it might certainly create certain obstacles that can be leading towards losing relationship, trust, and also losing completely with the effectiveness of making the entire feeling effectiveness of giving the speech or presentation. So handling questions and challenges, once again, anticipate questions and prepare responses. That something as a speaker I should do it. Rehearse answers to difficult question. In case a specific difficult question may arise, how would you answer and how would you like to speak on? So that's something to keep in mind. If necessary, offer to obtain additional information and follow up. We all have to abide by it. Use questions to strengthen your main arguments. Answer questions candidly but positively. Link objections to attractive features. Now, this is one of the most important means to be towards effectively concluding the presentation, because handling questions is the last stage of while you are towards the end of your presentation. Respect the fact that somebody has given you the time as a listener. Respect the fact that there is a question which is coming from the audience, and respect the fact that the person needs an answer for it. So these three questions, if you can self-analyze it, I'm sure you'll be able to get your responses out and give the right information to the person. So moving on to understand, avoid certain responses like we've already discussed. Put your questions, in case you cannot answer it, in a bucket list where you want to look up, come back, either share the information through email or either share the information stating that you would like to quote this back later on, because you have to do a little bit of homework and so on. So there are a lot of guidelines to answer the questions, that is, be honest. If you can't answer the question, say no. Reinterpret loaded questions. So if attacked, to show the similarity to the other situation, that is, do not prejudge anything. There's no one there to attack on you. If you still have that feeling, maybe after the presentation you can still sit and think on, but you cannot have that pre-attack while communicating and giving out the information. So use the last question to summarize, that is, basis on the last question, all you have to do is just summarize the entire experience. Now, even we are towards the end of this presentation. Let's look at the slide. Let's give a thorough look on the slide that has been presented. I want your concentration on this slide. So basically, this is the conclusion checklist for effective presentation. Now, this particular video today brings us to the end of the learning on effective presentation. So start preparing early. Don't wait until the last few days to prepare. Think about your audience, most important. Be clear about your purpose. Use an effective introduction. Organize your presentation clearly and simply. Use supporting material to support your point. Create an effective conclusion. Sound spontaneous, conversational and enthusiastic, use body language effectively, use visual aids to enhance the message, check the physical environment in advance, finally cope with the stage fright by remembering that it is normal and everyone can feel it. So this brings towards the end of learning on effective presentation. Start giving it at university or college. Share your observations, and these tips can certainly help you to be an effective communicator. Thank you for listening, and we really appreciate your time and patience. Thank you.